as a farmer and as a Grenadian farmer, it is going to be painful because Grenadian farmers do not like to cut their trees. For whatever reason, you think the bigger the tree, the better. And for a lot of things, that is not true. For soursop, it is definitely not true, right? We have to be able to get the tree to a height that is manageable for you to do hand pollination, for you to harvest in a way that does not damage your trees. And the only way to do that is to have a shorter tree, right? You will see when you go through the book, you will see um, how in Brazil and in other places that are big soursop producers, that their trees don't get taller than I am. About maybe a little taller, probably 6 feet. About 6 feet is the highest they would go. And they don't even let them do this. This, this piece going up here, they don't let them do this. They make sure that they open like this on all sides, and you keep removing the the shoots that would go up to ensure that your plant opens like this. This is why I'm saying that you have to be very careful about the spacing. Because if you're going to prune your plants for them to grow and be wide like this, then you're going to need to have the space for this one here to grow over here and for that one here to grow over here, to make sure that you have that coverage. If you happen to get, because sometimes if you're not developing the field from zero and you're rehabilitating a field, it is difficult for you to get all the lines right and all, because it's already planted. But if you're going to establish a field, then you can establish your field in such a way that you have a walkway in the middle here, that no weeds and things even grow, because the branches from this one come over and everybody comes over, and then you have, it lessens on the amount of labor that you have to use in the maintenance of your field. Of course, that is when your field gets to be a mature field. But okay, so let me show you how you would prune. So we using this one as an example. So we say 6 feet is about here. This is like the right height. So we would cut here, right? We would cut about here. And when you're cutting, you see this? You have to be very careful about how you prune. You should prune at an angle, right? So when you're cutting here, should be like this. You should cut it like we have a lot of ants. You should cut at an angle, right? That would ensure or reduce the chances of water staying there and rotting in your. See this? All of this is rotten. It's rotting. So it will reduce the chances of your the injured part of your plant rotting. Right? So because the water doesn't have all that space.
There's something you could use. Arborets.
Right.
When you cut,
Right.
like a
People
top,
have like a
paint it on there.
right a pruning tar that you can use. Yeah. People, some people use it, some people don't, but you can. You just pass it's just like a paint. When you buy it at the store and you just paint and you can put it on.
Can't you also use a lime water?
Yeah. Some people use like a white lime kind of mix and they paste it also. But in all of that, ensure that when you cut in, you cut at an angle all the time. So here you would cut this at an angle. See? So that you don't have this. You don't have all this rotted. You cut it at an angle. So this, if I had to rehabilitate this plant, I would probably cut off all of these things, because this is already rotted. See? And we have a lot of ants and termites living in here. So you would cut this off. We cut off here and take off like all these little suckers coming up. And then, especially because here they don't use any chemicals, You can use, you try not to, or they use they use very little. One of the things you can do is to put a ring of petroleum jelly around here, just around the base of your plant, a thick ring of petroleum jelly, which makes, because your ants now, this black thing here, this blight, is something sooty mold that is something that happens because of a relationship between these ants and some sucking insects, some scale insects, right? So the ants walk with the scale insects wherever they go, wherever they make a nest. It's very interesting. I think it's very interesting. And because the scale insects, when they eat, they exude a sugary substance that the ants eat. So the ants are working with their own food machines, right? So if you can control the ants, you can control this mold, right? You would also have to control like these big trees, but you could lessen the effects, because what happens is that when your tree is covered with this sooty mold, then it cannot photosynthesize. When it cannot do that, that process, photosynthesis, is a process of it making food. When it can't make food, then it can't defend itself, and it can't make any flowers, and it can't make leaves, and it just cannot eat, because it has to make its own food for it to be able to function. And so once it's all of these things, all the receptors are covered with this black mold, then it can't do anything. So that's why your tree starts to suffer. And then on soursop, which is another very interesting thing about soursop, like cocoa, it can flower all over the stem, right? However, if the sooty mold is covering everything, all the flower receptors, all the areas, see like this, some of these areas here, these would have been places that flowers would grow. But and just like cocoa, if you see it, if you look in your book, you can see it, that and then you will start to recognize it. If I see it anywhere, I will show you how many flowers come from the same spot all the time unless you damage it, which is one of the other reasons why we discourage that when you're harvesting, that people climb your trees. Because when they climb the tree, then their skin is rubbing, and their shoes and everything rubbing on the places that would make the fruit. So they're damaging your money makers. Right? So you have to be very careful. That is why we're trying to have the trees pruned and shot, so that you can't so that nobody has to climb your trees. And then when they're harvesting, you harvest with a like a cocoa knife, or we have some long pickers, it's like a shears that you put up, and then it has a string, and you clamp it down, and it squeezes, and it cuts the fruit, because you don't want to pull. Because when you pull, you are pulling off all the areas here which have all the hormones that cause the plant to flower. So every time you cut off a plant, cut off a fruit, it stimulates more hormones to be made here, and you get a bigger and a bigger point of where the fruit would come from if you do it properly.
So Mr. Louis, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In that case, the picker that I was used to pick this also,
Mm-hmm.
is not a good idea.
Which picker do you use?
The same little one with the little bag.
No, that is a terrible idea. You should have the one with the. That's why we've been trying to have um training sessions with pickers, with buyers and pickers, so that they know how to do it properly. Because then the whole industry could be. This is weird.
Sir, if your trees are under 8 feet, you don't need the picker.
Exactly. Yeah, if you keep your trees pruned and short, then you can walk through and harvest, and you can take your pruning shears your secateurs, and just go through and cut. And if me and this thing ain't working well today. I'm looking to see if I find if I see some flowers, but I'm not seeing any flowers by here. Yeah. Right. So for this one, like this tree here, it started off okay, but I guess it was very big. So Mr. Chopper, how are you? You good? Chopper would tell you that you cut this tree here. No? Right. You cut this tree right here, around here. So you cut around here and you take off all of these extra things and you try to see if this one would grow out. You know you would, but this one is already, I don't know. That one look as if it's already gone. But I mean, because the tree is the tree is a kind of older tree and you don't want to shock it so much, you don't cut off here and cut off here and kind of trim. So all this part here you would take off. And then in between would have a lot of scale insects. I'll show them to you in a bit. In between here. Huh?
You need something to kill the insects and then like for the ants, you put something on
Yeah.
the stool. There's something you can put in the stool to kill
Yeah.
the bacteria from taking the insects.
Well, there are insecticides that you can use that will kill the ants immediately, but you would have to do some other things to try to keep the ants from coming back because ants would always come back. So ants, I mean, they're just around. They kind of needed. So that's what I was saying. You can put like sticky traps. There are traps that you can put around here that you could use for the long term. Because you have to be very,
White line.
but you have to be careful because the thing with soursop is it takes up everything that you put in the soil. It takes up everything, right? So you have to be careful how often you put in things in your soil. Things like sevens. Sevens is very, very poisonous. It's a very harsh chemical, even though we seem to use it quite indiscriminately. But sevens is very dangerous. Can be if you don't use it right, and it remains in the soil forever. So if you're using sevens, then you have to be see like how the tree is now. You use sevens, no. When there's no flowers, when there's no, and you hope that you don't get the residues within the fruit. But those are some of the things we have to be very careful about, because especially now that the FDA is being um so careful about what is being introduced, and our soursop market on a whole has been, they eyeballing our soursop industry because we are the ones, the only people that can import fresh soursop as a fruit in the world to the US, right? So there are big countries like um, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia that have huge, huge soursop fields. They can send in soursop to the US also, but it has to go through a process. It has to be irradiated, it has to pass through like a radiation process, which lessens on its value in terms of organic food and safe food and that sort of thing. So we're the only country. So I come to you. So when you let these chemicals and have these chemical residues inside the fruit, and they're already looking for something to ban us on, and somebody decides, oh, they're going to spray this week and within the same week harvest, and they test it and they get the residues. Everybody, it's not the one person, everybody suffers for one person being a little hard headed. Yes, sir.
So the question is that you want when he's spraying any insecticide, so you should consult the pest management unit
Yes.
for what chemicals that they are allowed to use that is okay with FDA.
Yeah.
Because as you said, if only one person uses one chemical, and they usually do random checks.
Yeah.
And they find a residue in the fruit.
Everybody.
That's the end of the market.
Yep.
So it is very important that, as much as you see damages by whatever insects, sucking insects, or whatever, that you cannot just apply the kill.
Yeah.
You have to ensure that what you apply is what FDA allows.
Yes.
Right?
If you want flowers, we have one.
Okay.
That also goes for if we do in pulp as an input supplier for other food manufacturers. The pesticides are also traceable in the raw material,
Right.
and sometimes you can't get rid of the pesticide through cooking.
No.
So by the time the person done make their product, they still have traces of it in the end product,
end,
even though
yeah.
it's bottled already. So it's important.
be
that
very
we
careful.
Be very careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have to be careful about what we spray, because some of the things that we spray kills everything, and there are a lot of beneficial insects and other things that would help. So if you see ladybugs in your fields anyway, around your house, try and make sure and keep them, because they, if you put a ladybug, would eat all of the scale insects, all of this tree in about 24, 48 hours. All of them just go through and just eat and eat and eat and eat. However, they are very, very susceptible to anything that you spray. So when you go through and you just spray your garden, the ladybugs dying and these scale insects just getting stronger. Because somehow they develop resistance very, very quickly and they don't die. And even if some of them die, when they come back, it's like they're even stronger than the first time or the first few times that you sprayed.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let me just add a little to what you've been saying. Something of high concern too is the re-entry date of the farmers into the plot. Just as you destroy the ladybugs and so, we destroy ourselves.
Yes,
But
very
farmers
true.
do not pay attention to that. They spray today and tomorrow they're back in the plot, inhaling, and in some cases they get skin contact with chemicals.
And then you have to ensure that you wear your PPEs, make sure that you're covered, make sure that you have on your mask, make sure that I've seen farmers. I mean, farmers are very, very brave people. I've seen farmers mix chemical to spray with their hand in the bucket. Just put, just, you have to be very, very careful about what it is you're doing. We're actually having now a review of all of the pesticides that can be used in Grenada. I am on the pesticide board, so I know that we're reviewing all of those chemicals. And so now, a lot of those chemicals that we think work so well because they kill everything, they won't be available for us to use, which is why we should always try to ensure that we do all the cultural practices that we need to do. Do your pruning, make sure that you weed, make sure, those kind of things are done so that you won't, it's more of an integrated system that you have instead of solely depending on chemicals. And so we have some flowers because we want to show you how to do your hand pollination. So, yes.
After the hurricane, some of the trees they were difficult to rejuvenate. What is the best advice? Do we replant, or can you actually get a new stock growing from that? Which is better?
I think it's better to replant, depending on how, because if after the hurricane from now, if no, it's still not getting back up, then directly after the hurricane, 6 months after, you could try to see what could come back up. But I mean, if you have a few trees that you want to see if they will come back up, you can try. But if you're growing for on a commercial scale, you could plant back one right close to it. And then when hopefully you won't do like the nutmeg farmers and have six growing in the same stool. When it starts to grow, you cut off the old one, right? And because the old one, if the old one is still giving you a fruit or two and you want to keep it, you can. But I mean, you have to have the next one growing up so that you can, if you think it's worth it. But sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes that tree is just going to be a host for termites and ants, and you just cut it down. It doesn't sometimes it doesn't make sense. We have to stop thinking about our trees and our animals as farmers, as pets. You know, we like to think of our sheep. We have a sheep for 7 years. The sheep is not going to get any bigger. The sheep is just going to get harder. The meat is just going to get more tough. And you are just wasting time feeding. If you have it as a pet, yes. But if you're doing commercial production, it's a different thing. You need to kill this and go ahead and have a next one instead of, you might have one that you like, but the others, you have to, because after a while, you're just feeding them. You're just feeding, and it's not going to give you any more money. It's just going to get older, but it's not going to get anything bigger.
Sorry, last question.
Uh huh.
From your experience, what is the best crop for intercropping soursop?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a best crop. You intercrop with what you want to intercrop with. People intercrop with root crops. They intercrop. It depends on what you want to do and what you have the time to do.
But not a permanent crop.
But not anything permanent. So like a root crop, you could do you could do beds of you could do ginger, you could do
And sorrel is not friendly with
no.
soursop
Mm-mm.
because of milligrams.
Yeah.
Stay away, please.
And not pigeon peas either. Pigeon peas has a lot. They always encourage a lot of ants. It seems that's just from my observation. Yeah. Yeah. Because you end up with a lot more ants. Because I don't know why peas always have a lot of ants, and then your field end up in a whole mess.
Well, maybe in terms of with control, and you can use a couple bits cover
Yeah.
control. So I think sometimes you do a close stand and do better.
Yeah. I mean, people plant like not Dashi, it's Tanya. People plant Tanya in between. You could do certain things. If you want to do, you could do small beds in between your things, and you could do cabbage and all those kind of things in between. Because if you set it up properly, you have a lot of space in between your rows, so you could plant things in between. But it just depends, because if you need something to tide you over, financially while your soursop grows, then yeah, you put something in.
In some cases,
Yeah.
you use the new soils like banana plantains for covering it.
Yeah, but then if it gives you a next set of work to take it out. When it's grown now.
Papayas.
Yeah. Yeah, papaya might work too. Yeah, because they grow differently.
And it's only, 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah.
I ask that purposefully. If you have integrated pest control, then probably, as William said, turmeric and ginger may be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lauren,
Yes.
doing the moon as a guy, when is the best time to?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody who has more information on the moon. I don't know about the moon. I do things when you have time. I don't know. Anybody, Mr. Samuel, you know about the moon? When is the best time to prune by the moon?
Yes, 3 days before first quarter and after.
3 days after.
Yes.
We don't use.
I find it's very difficult to prune with the moon because you're supposed to prune year round.
Yeah.
I sometimes the guys say, "Oh, you should prune with the moon." I'm like,
Prune when you have time.
I don't think that's possible.
According to the moon you're trimming, you get more flowers.
Yeah, but the thing is, with soursop, but with soursop, you always have to be pruning.
Yep.
Constantly. I mean, we've been lax a bit
Yeah.
recently, but
Somebody. You have a question on this end?
Yes, so just on the moon.
Uh-huh.
From my observation, when you prune after first quarter, after last quarter,
Yes.
you get more fruit.
If you prune when? Oops.
last quarter.
If you prune mid-April,
Okay.
additionally, now, based on the viability of the soursop industry and so on, do we have any designated area for research and development? If not, is there any intention in that direction?
Okay, so we have a plot in Granbra that on Granbra Estate that we kind of abandoned for last year, but we're going to get it back on track. That is going to be used. That is what it's for. It's a demonstration plot there.
Also, Cardi.
And also, Mr.
Huh?
Lee,
Sorry.
Cardi's doing two.
Oh yes, Cardi. Yes, Cardi is going to be doing demonstration plots too.
in Maribor where they do the hand pollination
Right.
and the intercropping
Right. What do they intercrop with?
with crops.
With root crops, yeah. I was saying just before we move, this tree is not a good example. But you should leave about this amount of space between your branches. Right? About this much. So you see like this one, you can see this one, this branch here. Between here and here, you have that spacing. Right? So if you were doing rehabilitation here and you had branches in between here, you would take them out. And then between here and here, you have. And then look at what is interesting. These two, they're on this side, which maybe they should have had one on this side. These two on this side, right? But this one, between this one and this one, you have this one, right? And then the next one would have been this one, right? So you try to have the tree in such a way, you try to make an architecture in such a way that your branches are staggered so that your branches don't overlay one another, because then you end up having mold, you end up having fungus, and then when they're like this, the bottom ones can't get any sun and they won't make any fruit. So they're just going to be a big, pretty soursop tree that is an ornament, that is not making any fruit. Now, I don't know how you're getting rid of all these scale insects. You have a million scales. You will have to, we'll have to see what pest management have. Yes, ma'am?
Please mention that on those, you can get fruits from those suckers.
Yeah.
On the as well.
Mm-hmm. You can, as Miss Williams said, you can get fruits from here.
Once you cut them,
Yeah.
you'll be getting fruits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They do flower.
Because as I was saying, this area here, any of these kind of areas, they're areas that have a lot of hormones. And those hormones are what induce the plant to flower.